In today's equity index futures markets, let's take a look at the NASDAQ futures today as they're realizing some renewed strength here late in the session. We did see the NASDAQ futures, like most of the futures, lower on the session, although the Russell futures were stronger all day. But the NASDAQ futures were lower, but we gained some strength here late in the session and capitalized on the move Friday to push the NASDAQ futures higher for a second consecutive session here today. And with today's price action, we are seeing the NASDAQ futures trading at the highest level in exactly a month. You have to go back to May 7th to see the NASDAQ futures trading and holding above the 13,800 level. And I think part of the reason why we're seeing this renewed strength here in the NASDAQ futures primarily has to do with moderation in interest rates. I think that's a big fact here as we continue to see the longer dated treasuries, the 10s, the 20s, and 30s holding in a very tight range and actually at the lower end of that range over the last month. So as the treasuries continue to hold this range, even with the inflation pressures that the market had to contend with the last month, it does appear that we're seeing the tech sector, some rotation taking place under the surface here, now favoring the tech sector. If we do see interest rates playing out at this level for an extended period of time, it, in theory, would create the potential for increased demand for tech-centric or growth-type names, and it appears to be taking hold here, at least from a short-term perspective. Also, we're seeing small caps benefiting from this current trend as well. So I think that's one of the main driving factors, and just also the renewed influence or the renewed positive momentum, I guess is a better way to put it, when you look at equity markets as a whole, because we are seeing, again, the Dow and the S&P holding just off of all-time highs, even though they gave up a little bit more ground relative to the NASDAQ and the Russell today. But now we're seeing the NASDAQ futures trading at a one-month high. We did see the Russell futures also trading at a little over a one-month high today, and both those performed very well today, where the Russell futures were up over 1% actually at the end of the day. S&P futures basically unchanged on the day, and the Dow futures were lower. So again, that points towards that rotation trade that I mentioned, that we had experienced the other rotation as rates were rising earlier this year, but now that rates are moderated, it does appear that we're seeing the tech sector and the NASDAQ futures starting to play a little bit of a catch-up relative to some of the other index futures that are holding basically just off of all-time highs.